Hello, Money Queens and listeners. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. Let's meet the women behind the millionaires, the women supporting, guiding, celebrating women with their wealth. You will hear from women millionaires, how they got there, what they wish they had known, what got them to be a millionaire, the emotional side, the spiritual side, the practical side of wealth. You'll also get to meet the women behind the scenes helping make it happen. Let's dive into Women Behind the Millions. I am Jessica Weaver, your host, best-selling author of 3 books, wealth advisor, and founder of the Women's Wealth Boutique. Let's start meeting the women. Hello, Money Queens. Welcome to Women Behind the Millions. We have with us today Amanda Stilwell, who is, listen to this, ladies, she's a registered Social Security analyst, a national Social Security advisor, certified senior advisor, top of the table MDRT. She's been an advisor for over a decade, dealing with insurance and helping people build out financial plans, asset management. She has quite a career story that I cannot wait to dive into today. So thank you so much, Amanda, for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I've been excited to share.
Yes. And you can probably tell she is from the South. She is from South Carolina. With her accent, we are so excited to bring her on to the Women's Wealth Boutique, her and her team at Clarity Financial Solutions. So, Amanda, what made you want to become an advisor? Let's start there.
Gosh, I can tell you, I didn't dream about becoming an advisor when I was a little girl. I was talking to my niece about this, who's recently come to work with us. But I just listened to my inner voice. And through past experience, I was working in home health and hospice, and unfortunately was called in to deal with families when a loved one had to go home after an illness or an injury, and they couldn't care for themselves. And so I basically sat around the table with family members and asked questions like, okay, who's going to take off Monday? Who's going to take care of her on Tuesday? Who's flight? So, Brother Joe, he lives in a different state. He's got to fly in and help. Which days does he want? And, you just see a lot of frustration. They're dealing with, obviously, the emotional impact of their loved one being ill or injured. And then now the financial and their familial impact if they have young children. And I just was tired of putting out fires. So, through discernment and conversation and prayer, just wanted to be more of a prevention person and not just putting Band-Aids on things. So I realized that if I could get in front of people before these things tended to happen, I would be able to set themselves up and their families up to prevent these things, right? So to kind of smooth out that walkway through retirement, prevent those potholes that people often fall into. So I landed on Medicare just because it's simply it was a way for me to get in front of people. Everybody has to get on it at some point in time. And then as I developed my knowledge and expertise in Medicare, long-term care was next, then Social Security maximization, and then very organically true holistic advising. It just happened. Like I said, it was just kind of, I think, meant to be. I found my space, and I love getting to help people just really have peace of mind as they enter into what should be a really phenomenal part of their life.
Ooh, I agree with that. It should be the best time of their life, retirement. They've worked so hard, whether they're raising the family, their career, saving money, supporting their parents at that point too. Some things that I take away from that story of your career is one, the patience. Mm-hmm. And you can't rush people when they're in that space dealing with hospice, their loved one passing. Are you a naturally patient person, Amanda? Or is that a skill that you grew doing that kind of work?
Yeah, I feel like that I've been given, a God-given ability to just be present with people, take them to their edge, what they can get to that day, that moment, that hour, and then pause, right? moving people through hard situations, it is a skill. It for sure is a skill, but oftentimes they are analyzing every aspect of what if, and so they become paralyzed. So analysis paralysis, right? So having the ability to walk along them, taking them, being on their side of the table. I try always to be an extension of a family and not the outsider. I let them know what my skill, my scope is, and then listen. And sometimes you do have to make decisions and say, this is what I believe is best in this situation. And this is what we should do in this situation. And having the language and the confidence in my own skill set to know that that is putting the person in the best situation. And then sometimes they need the decision making taken off of them. They need someone to say, here, can you just tell me what's next? So
I feel they have to make so many tough decisions at once. I'm guessing it's a lot of reprioritizing.
and it is
That there's so much, and you help them get to that edge that they can handle for that day. The power of the pause that we've said before. There's so much power behind the pause. Reprioritizing what needs to get done, holding their hand when it needs to be held, but then also giving them that push when they need to step and make that decision.
100%.
For this.
And you also have to really, I think, and as women, we're good at this, to read the room, right? Know who the grounded person is, who's the true decision maker. It might be a different person on paper.
Ooh, that's true.
Yeah. Who the true decision maker is, and lean into them a little bit. And the same thing goes what we're doing, planning for prevention. You have to know those things too. So that experience for sure has helped me in my practice 100%.
Yes. And that led me to the other point I wanted to bring up. Having the hard conversations, asking the hard questions. I recently saw somebody speak, and she was even an example of a story, and she was a sports agent. Did the deal of the lifetime for this coach, the deal of the lifetime. And the next day he goes, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. She's like, we just celebrated though. We opened up the good wine. We celebrated. And she goes, you know what happened? I didn't ask him the hard questions. He was moving from college to professional, and she didn't ask him, are you mentally prepared to not walk through that stadium anymore? And looking at our work, your work as an advisor, I'm sure that career beforehand also helped you to step up and not shy away from the hard questions, but to lean into them, because if you don't ask the hard questions, then things are going to fall apart. Or right now you're dealing with loved ones, their emotions, their money. And two, so I'm curious too, do you shy away from, a lot of women shy away from conflict, but it sounds like you kind of step into asking those hard questions and being in those awkward, uncomfortable moments.
I am not afraid. That's right. I feel how you phrase things is everything, right? How you word them, but getting the point across is the most important thing, because many times when people are saving for retirement, right, what do? They look at their statements. It's accumulation. It's accumulation. It's accumulation. It's hope for the best. Hope they have a good advisor. And then they start reaching that, what we call retirement red zone in this world of finance. And they start, those numbers mean more, right? And they have rarely had a conversation with their loved one about priorities, travel, healthcare, fears, what keeps them up at night. And so I can't tell you how many times I've said, ask those hard questions and then just silence, and being okay in that silence and saying, all right, so we got some homework to do, and that's okay, because this is your individual plan for what I call the distribution phase of life, right? Your legacy, or just life after work. So it's very important to ask the hard questions, just like your story, because if you don't, remorse, regret, biters, who knows what's going to happen after they leave. So letting them be okay to have some homework, and being okay to be in that conversation with them. Sometimes it will be a healthier conversation when there's a buffer. Somebody who can hear, repeat, I hear you saying, because not everyone is skilled at communication. And at this point in time, usually when I'm involved, decisions have to be made. Things have to move forward. And so they can't bury their head in the sand anymore if they've been doing that in the past. So,
Yes. And you're right on that. Everybody's a great communicator, especially under grief,
correct.
or they're emotional about their money, or there's a lot of fear, insecurities coming up. And what I think of when you're talking about asking the hard questions too, is you're getting much deeper than that surface level help that tends to happen a lot, especially in our industry, is here's a problem, here's a product that's going to solve it. Okay, but why did the problem start in the first place? How do we prevent it from happening again? How do we heal any of those triggers, insecurities, instead of them continuing on into retirement with them? So Amanda, now you are doing that work, helping families prepare for losing their loved one. What was it like transitioning into now becoming an advisor and wanting to help prevent a lot of these issues, red flags? We see it all the time. Families really are broken apart when a loved one is lost, whether it's the emotions, the money, a lot of times the money. So what was that transition like for you? How did you get started?
Honestly, it was just my life experience because no one was asking those questions. And so the people sitting with me as clients or as prospects knew that I was coming to this from a different angle, and they had never had that experience before. I was listening to their specific fears, goals, objectives, asking about their family members, asking about their family health history, asking, things that they had maybe never thought of or had never come up in a financial discussion. So it was incredibly rewarding. That's what I'll tell you, because my goal and all that I do, whether they become a client or not, is to leave people better than I found them, 100%. Whether it's just education, maybe some pointers, or a full-on holistic plan. The clients that I have, the people that I meet, are just thankful that they're able to now these things that have never happened to them yet. Maybe they happened to the grandparent, but they never saw it really happening to them in their life, right? So having those issues, the what ifs, the mights, percolate to the top. And then we have a plan so they know they're not going to have a hiccup. It's not going to change the trajectory of their lifestyle because we've discussed it. We know what the plan is. And just having that experience and then having the ability to be an advisor and watching the peace come over people when they know they're going to be taken care of is it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done outside of having children and, having a family. So, people cry. I can't tell you how many tears have been shed in my office when, you put the plan together that they've told you, they've created they've told me the problem. I've shown them the solution. I brought up the things that they don't want to think about. So now they're even feeling more secure, more protected. And then you say, it's okay. You're going to be okay. You can retire. These might be some tweaks, but we're going to walk through this together. It's a wonderful way to build a practice for sure.
Can you sense that moment immediately once like the worries kind of are shed, or they're starting to build the trust, the confidence, that relief? I think that's that huge wave of relief.
Yeah,
we did
absolutely. It's their body language. It's the way, if it's a couple, it's the way they look at each other.
Oh, sure. That when they look at each other.
Yeah. It's like, okay, so all of these things that we've been dreaming of, we can do them, and maybe it is, like I'm saying, it's not pie in the sky. You have to have a reality check, right? And know what your fixed expenses are and other goals. But just to know we've worked this hard and now we can actually enjoy this part of our life, yes, you can definitely sense it. It's a lightness in the room. It is tears of joy oftentimes, and sometimes disbelief. They're like,
I was just thinking that exact thing. Yes. I just really think this almost shocked. This is real. This can happen. Amazing.
I had a client, it's one of my favorite stories, and she started crying and which is normal for me. I always have Kleenex in my office because it's usually right. It's not a what if, it's a usually could happen. And she said, "So you mean to tell me that I can retire like tomorrow?" And I said, "Well, I mean, you can. We're set. We've put your income plan together. We know where the money's coming from. We know what asset drawdown we're going to do." And she said, "Oh my gosh!" And she looked at her husband with this like just amazement. Called me the next day and said, "I quit my job." And she started volunteering, doing something that she's been wanting to do for 15 years, which will eventually become a part-time job. But she's been chained to, right? Like to a job that she's good at and made, she had a great living, but she had no joy in it. So that was definitely, I would say, an experience that launched me. Just, you know what, you have those people that just spur you on to do more and more and more. I see her face still in that moment and just think, wow, planning is so important. So often people don't even see everything all in one place. They've never really put things together, and they've just been save, hope for the best.
Yes, they're like squirrels for winter. They're just socking away things. But you're right, there's so many components. We have inflation, Social Security, pensions, retirement accounts, withdrawals, taxes, Social Security, long-term care. Goes on and on and on. But putting it all into one place and then to be able to visualize it. We're such visual learners, especially women.
And I tell them, I say, okay, so give me a fear, and I'm going to show you visually how that shouldn't be a concern of yours. And so I walk through that with them, and you can just tell their body language, just like their shoulders get a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter, a little bit lighter. And then we're friends for life.
Say, now going back to that client, do you see a difference in her now when you speak with her or see her?
She is a Clarity Financial Solutions ambassador. I think she tells everybody about us. I've had more referrals from her than anybody. But I will tell you that the impact just that few meetings had on her life were incredible. So yes, she calls me on a regular basis just to tell me I'm still retired. I'm still loving it. And I thank you so much.
You love to hear that too. You love getting those calls. It's
fun. My gosh. Yeah. And anytime we meet for reviews and stuff, she'll tell me about the things that she's always wanted to do. Now she's able to do. And she's young. She's not even 65 yet. She retired early. So, but her husband's older. And so she wanted to make sure that she has good time with him.
And she's volunteering. She's giving back. Look at the impact of a plan. Yes. It's not just impacting your life, but now she gets time with her husband and all the people that she's impacting through her volunteering. That's amazing. So, Amanda, when people work with you, obviously we talked about the plan a lot. What can people expect? What are kind of those key pieces that you focus on with them?
Well, one thing is I am what you see, what you get. There's no dog and pony show. There's no pomp and circumstance. It's just knee to knee. Let's ask some questions, get to know each other, see if we're a good fit, number one. Really, I am going to ask more than just their risk tolerance. I'm going to ask them questions about, and you brought this up. We had a discussion about this earlier about not just risk, but stress, their stress tolerance, because even if they might be thinking that they have a higher risk tolerance, if they don't put their head on the pillow at night and feel good, something's off. So I asked questions about their family, about medications they take, about Medicare, ensuring that their retirement isn't erased by medical expenses. is one of the really large pillars of my practice because medical bankruptcy is one of the number one reasons why people go bankrupt in retirement. And so if I can prevent like those dollars from going to things unnecessarily by education and preparation, then they're able to know that that vacation is not going away that they've been looking forward to. So I do ask a lot of questions about the medical side of their plan, make some suggestions to prevent those potholes that I know of, right? So that gets really intimate really quick. It's once I know their drugs and their health history, it just seems like people also, I will tell you from an advisor perspective, when you're talking about Medicare, you have to go way deep, right? Because their premiums that they're paying for their Medicare Part B, which is the medical portion, and their prescription plan premium, you have to know their tax adjustable gross income 2 years before. So you're already into that conversation and it just becomes less invasive. Like they just don't mind sharing it. So they're just more open, I think. So that would be something for sure that differentiates me.
Oh, I just want to pause real quick there because that the Medicare premiums, those are huge shockers to people. So doing that work ahead of time so you can mentally prepare and know what to expect to pay based on your income, these moving factors is huge. So you're not surprised. And when you said the medical bankruptcy, a light bulb went off of my head, and it's so true. Those expenses just eat away at your retirement money.
They do. I think about it like long-term care protection and understanding where Medicare stops and long-term care picks up. And if you don't have long-term care, where your investments, your IRA, your saving, all that is going to have to be depleted. If you know that and you're able to prepare for that, it's almost like you're putting an insurance policy around your lifetime savings that you've worked for so long.
There's so much security behind that plan.
Yes, and who wouldn't want to do that, especially if they want to leave a legacy, right? So, and it's easy to do. It's not hard and it's not expensive. A lot of people think, oh, I've heard all about these horrible things. All it is knowledge. That is another thing I will say. What can people expect from me? Education. I'm going to take them as far as they want to know. I'm not going to make them, write a dissertation on their plan, but I want people to know why we're doing what we're doing, because there's so many buzzwords out there in the world of finance. There's so many radio people and everyone has an opinion. And I want them to know the what, the why, and feel good about it. So when they're at dinner with their family or best friends and something is brought up, they feel completely confident and know what they're doing and people can't poke holes. Because that's another, I think, really important thing. A lot of people want to just say, Amanda, can you handle it? I get that a lot. What should I do? Yesterday's appointment, it comes in and I'm like, I have everything prepared. And she's like, well, just whatever you think. And I'm like, no. That's, I love that confidence in me, but I want you to understand the whys and the whats. So, because it is important. And I think that brings another layer of peace of mind to know that. So education, a deep dive on understanding the medical side of retirement, because it's a big one.
Yes.
Understanding how Social Security maximization is often missed, especially when couples or ex-spouses are involved. And then really focusing on a required minimum distribution strategy and not just it's going to happen, but where's it coming from and how do we know, making sure that we have all those things that are going to happen and we know we have the plan in place.
And required minimum distributions, for those of you who are listening and aren't familiar, at age 72, the IRS forces you to start taking money out of certain retirement accounts, or if you inherit an IRA. So reach out to us if you have any questions regarding that, but just a little side note on it. As I said, there's so much security and groundedness by having a plan and being able to make educated decisions instead of so much emotional or fear-based decisions is huge. And then guiding them along the entire time. You brought up legacy. So I'm curious, Amanda, what kind of legacy do you want to leave behind?
Oh, That's a good question. I think the way I live my life is through service of others, right? Service of my family, my community, my clients or extensions of that too. And that is the legacy I want to leave. Just when people think of me, I want them to think of how I hopefully made their life better. And I teach that to my children. I mean, they're older. I mean, Mary Ashton is 20, almost 21. Samuel will be 22 in just a few days, and Mason is 25. But, we talk a lot about when we look out into the world, let's say we're at dinner or we're shopping or something like that. I encourage them to look for people who might be hurting, and just being aware of what's around you. And knowing how whatever skill set you have, mine is this, but yours is something else, how that can impact your community for good. And then put a plan together and implement it, because that's what makes the world go round, right?
And your boys took it to heart because they're all in the military, right?
Yes, I have a lot of service. We're patriots for sure. I love our country. Both of my boys, it was never a discussion. It was just, they knew they were gonna, and I kind of knew that they were gonna serve. My dad was in the Navy. My grandfather was an aviator in World War II, and it goes back and back and back and back, way back. But it's just part of what my boys will do. My oldest is in the Air Force, and my youngest is in the Army, and my daughter refuses to go. But I've told her she can too. I've empowered her to let her know it's possible.
They really did that service to heart and looking in their environments and how could they have the biggest impact for it. It's amazing. I want to switch gears here, Amanda, because you also have this huge other side to you. You are a yoga teacher. You are a certified yoga teacher. What got you into yoga, and how do you see it helping and benefiting your life and the people around you?
All right, that's an awesome question. And I'm talking to myself right now, because with anything, when you own a business or when you have a work-life balance, right? I call it harmony, because it's not really
the name harmony.
Yeah, it's harmony. It's how it all fits together.
Yes.
I've struggled with anxiety, just uncertainness, feeling not grounded.
Yep.
Along most of my life since I was little. I remember my first anxiety attack I had. I was like a brownie in 5 years old or 6 years old, something tiny. Nothing happened. It was just, I'm very aware of my surroundings, and things make me nervous. And I didn't know how to channel that. And I found yoga. Obviously I'm a prayerful person. I'm a believer. So I have prayer for sure that grounds me. But then the deeper side of just understanding your spirit, right? Your breath, and how your breath changes everything. It's how before this, I was grounding myself, right? So becoming clear, so that channel from my head to my heart is open, so I can hear clearly. So I started practicing when my little two, who are not little anymore, were tiny. And it made such a huge impact on my life. I wanted to study deeper. I wanted to know why these poses and these exercises and these breath techniques created such a sense of peace in me. And it was lasting peace. And I was able to take the yoga that I was learning off the mat into conversations and into meetings and family situations, and just using those techniques in life. So then I became certified to teach in 2012. And, I teach more volunteer-based now, just because my life, my work. And also I found when I was teaching was the only time I was practicing, and that's not healthy. You need to have a practice and then also, teach as extra. So now I was just talking to some veteran groups that I'm happy to help them. And in any of my...
That'll be a huge impact for them.
Yes. As trauma, PTSD, learning how to breathe through it. And I'll tell you, I use my breathing techniques, prayer, all day, every day. It's never something that
We're a walking practice of it. And that's what I love about yoga, how they always say it's a practice. And that's how I feel. With spirituality should be a religion, however you call it, money, right? Everything should be a practice that we lean into, we do on a daily basis, but we're never going to perfect it.
No. And that's actually the process that I love the most. You never arrive. You're always learning more. You're always diving deeper, right? I mean, there's never a day that I don't learn something new about finance, about legislation going on with Social Security. There's never a day that I don't learn something new about a deeper layer of myself. Why is this bothering me? Why am I feeling anxious right now? And that yoga has taught me that it's okay to sit in that, right? To just sit there with it and let it come up and breathe through it. Sometimes you cry, sometimes you laugh, but it's just an amazing practice as far as stress goes. And a lot of my clients will come into my office, into my space, into my world, and they're so uptight, right? I mean, they're just worried to death about everything. And I just want to be able to have like a magic wand and go, and create this sense of peace over them. But you got to learn it, right? It's a practice, like you said.
It is. It's interesting to me because you went into yoga because you said the anxiety and the uncertainties. And yet in your professional world, in your career, that's what you deal with all day long.
That's interesting. It's also been a gifting of mine forever. I'm always the person people call when friends are in turmoil, whatever the situation is, right? Like, so I have that ability to be there, as we were talking earlier, just to sit with people through things.
But calming force, grounding force, where you know when to talk up, when you're just there to listen. As you were saying before, reading the room, the energies, which is always so important. That's amazing. So I know because you do seminars, you do a lot of education throughout the year, and just going into what we're talking about with the yoga. The last seminar you did have the audience. You walk them through a breathing exercise.
Yes, a lot of visualization. So,
how did that go over?
Oh my gosh, it was so interesting and impactful for the people that were there. You never know how people are going to take it, but I have to, I have my expertise, my knowledge. I know it works for me, so let's share, right? That's the way I think about it. And yeah, so I had it was a seminar on Medicare, Social Security, retirement planning. So a lot of people are stressed. They come in with their notebooks and their pens, and they're just worried they're going to find the silver bullet, right? In this seminar, they're going to figure everything out. And so in the very first slide was a picture of a gentleman clearly distressed. He had his head in his hands and eyes closed, eyebrow, forehead all grimaced and stuff. And then I had them close their eyes after they saw that picture. And then I walked them through taking deep breaths, feeling yourself in your space, and then walking into retirement with everything taken care of. You have experts on your side. You don't have to make decisions on your own. Things are laid out, buttoned up, and your only job is to live into it, lean into it, breathe. And then I had them open their eyes, and the next slide was a husband and a wife on bicycles, and they had their legs out and their arms up, and they were like so excited to, just to experience the day and breathe in the beautiful air. And that's what I want for my clients. And so my first appointment after that was with a couple that had come to that seminar. She looks at me, she goes, I want to be on the bicycle. How do I get on the bicycle?
That is now the new dream, the new standard. I want to be on the bicycle. Maybe I have a beer or a colada in my hand too. Margarita.
Right. There you go.
Biking to the beach. No stress.
That's fair.
No health issues, concerns. That's a great visualization. I'm sure that's going to be a regular thing you do.
It really is going to be, because she was not the only person that has said something about it. And I really feel like people don't allow themselves the opportunity to visualize what they want. But we know that because we practice this a lot with Women's Wealth Boutique. But just giving people permission to visualize what wants in their dreams, and it's okay.
So if you want more of that, ladies, reach out to Amanda. Amanda, where can everybody find you? And Clarity Financial Solutions.
Yep. So our website is clarityfinsolutions.com. And obviously we're on social media. So Amanda McHugh Stilwell, Clarity Financial Solutions, Women's Wealth Boutique. We're kind of all over the place. That be looking for us. We are excited to serve. I mean, that's really the way I think about what I do is I get to serve people and I also get to make a great living doing it.
You do. It's amazing. Thank you so much for being on here. Thank you for being part of the Women's Wealth Boutique. We are so excited to have you, the whole team at Clarity Financial Solutions. And even going back to legacy, you have an all-female team that you are building and investing in. And that is a whole nother legacy as well, getting more and more women into the financial industry. So thank you for being you, for joining us, and for taking so much care and love into your work. It really does show. Please reach out to Amanda. You can find her at thewomenswealthboutique.com as well. And make sure to follow us on Instagram at Women's Wealth Boutique. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you to all of our listeners, our money queens. We will see you on the next Women Behind the Millions.